Welcome to today's session where we will be exploring test-taking strategies focusing on true or false questions. These type of questions are represented as statements and are often used to very quickly do a knowledge check of facts or difficult concepts that were taught in class. The good news about true and false is they are usually only a few sentences long, but because of that, you must decide if the statement is 100% accurate as it's written. Because there are only two answers to choose from, true or false, it becomes vital to fully understand the whole statement being made. Misunderstanding the statement is how you may accidentally choose the wrong answer. So let's look at the four most common statement types that can be challenging for students. Double negatives, overly complex or run-on statements, absolute statements, and sometimes statements. For double negatives, our example here being, it is not true that Newfoundland is not east of Toronto. This style of statement is super confusing to read on an exam. Make sure to always slow down and take your time and unpack this. When you spot a double negative, it can help to eliminate the negative word pair and then reread the statement. Be mindful that this only works when there are connected negatives. So if we look at our example again, we eliminate the negatives that are connected, we end up with a statement of, it is true that Newfoundland is east of Toronto. Now this we know is accurate, so in an exam, we would mark this as true. For overly complex or run-on statements, our example here being, Newfoundland Labrador is the most eastern point of Canada, joined Canada in 1949, has a time zone 60 minutes ahead of PEI, and houses the Lansa Meadows Viking colony. However, what we've done here is have a big amount of information, and if we're rushing through this, we're going to miss something. So let's work our way through it slowly. So these long, complex statements are going to likely mix in something incorrect. And you got to find it. So if we glance at it quickly, we're going to see Eastern, check, Canada, check, time zone, check, Viking colony, check. All things we know are true. When we look at it on its pieces, though, we catch that the time zone is inaccurate. We know Newfoundland is only 30 minutes ahead of PEI. The statement becomes inaccurate because the one piece is inaccurate. Now that one piece means that we cannot mark this as true. So therefore, we'd have to select this as false. For absolute statements, our example here is all Newfoundland dogs have only black fur. These types of statements allow for zero alternatives or discretion. Zero. In our example, someone unfamiliar with the dog breed or who isn't in veterinary sciences may be unaware that Newfoundland dogs, though often black, can also have gray, brown, or white in their fur. Knowing that information, we cannot agree to the statement 100% that all Newfoundland dogs have only black fur. So we'd have to determine that the statement is inaccurate because there are those exceptions. Therefore, we would mark this statement as false. For sometimes statements, our example here is there are often puffins to see in Elston, Newfoundland in summer. This type of statement allows for limited exceptions to a rule and will typically be stated with discretionary phrasing words like sometimes, most of the time, often, or frequently. For our example, the statement is careful to say often, meaning that there's a high probability, but not an absolute guarantee of seeing puffins in Elliston in the summer. We do know we're likely to see them, and we do know that Elliston's a great spot and summer's a great time. However, the statement allows that there are limited exceptions, such as seeing no puffins on a particular day in the summer, or that you could see a puffin in autumn or spring. For these reasons, the statement would be accurate, as the overarching assumption is overall correct and allows for those limited caveats. So we would mark this statement as true on an exam. With true or false statements, we have the responsibility to carefully read the whole statement to make sure we're picking the right answer. If you're unsure if something is true or false, especially when the statement is formed as one of those four challenging ones we just looked at, mark it and come back to it if possible. Something later on in your exam may stir your memory, or on your second reading, you may catch a hint that you missed the first time around. True-false statements are also excellent practice questions to use in your study prep. You can use flashcards, or when you're studying with a partner, you can quickly quiz each other on a variety of topics by grabbing a random handful of the flashcards and quickly going through them. Not only will this have you become more familiar with the material, but it will also have you become more familiar with the style and the variety of true-false questions that can occur. Challenge yourself to make some of those challenging and difficult question types. Thank you for your time and for joining me to review these test-taking strategies. For learning about these or other test-taking strategies, on the ASC website, you're going to see hints for multiple choice, true or false essays, short answers, open book, and more.